Right, hello, my name's Sally Cartwright. I'm a technical diver. I've been diving 30 odd years, been on rebreather for 27 of those. And I've been head of a training agency, Aqua Association. I've been part of loads of industry background sort of activities. And then I've ended up, through COVID, I suppose, I ended up marrying up my medical work with my diving and ended up being a manager and a hyperbaric attendant as well, managing Midlands Diving Chamber. So.
Hello and welcome to the Big Scuba Podcast. Welcome back, everybody. Welcome. This is episode 184. This is brought to you with our lovely friends over at 90, and do you know they're beyond technical. So there we are. My name is Ian and I don't do these things alone. With me, all the way in Pakefield is...
Hello, my name's Gemma on this sunny Friday afternoon.
It's a
recording this.
Yes. Yeah, if you're listening to this, today is Friday, but hey, you could be listening to this in December and it could be snowing and all sorts.
Yeah, we've had a rare, beautiful day in the UK today.
I know.
It's like summer.
The downloads, you could be downloading it anywhere and anywhere. So what's this podcast all about?
Well, we talk to people from around the world that have a passion for diving, but also a passion for the underwater world and for ocean conservation.
We do. And we do a bit of diving, we do a bit of paddleboarding, and well, we just enjoy being either on the water, under the water,
by the water, yeah,
or by the water, even on a nice day.
Yeah.
So coming up on this episode, we've got a guest for you. Her name is Sally Cartwright, and she is the manager the lady in charge of Midlands Dive Chamber.
Yeah, the diving chamber. Yeah. So, but she's also a very experienced diver and started out diving and then went very quickly into technical diving. So she was one of the earlier people on rebreathers.
Yeah, done some serious deep dives, 100-meter plus. She talks a bit about about that, how she did that. Talks a bit about how she kind of lost her confidence a bit and how she recovered that. And talk about the chamber and what that's like as well.
And also about the diving industry, particularly in the UK.
Yeah.
And what we've got to offer as cold water divers in the UK as well.
Yeah, exactly. And we've got a lot to offer in the UK. We've got a lot of great firms, and we'll get to that in a minute. We've got a special date coming up. It's going to be this coming weekend. It's the 10th anniversary of Paddy's Women's Dive Day. We've been to Nart, been up to see them, and we've got a dive trip coming.
Woo! Yes. So the reason for bringing out Sally's podcast was to coincide with Women's Paddy Dive Day, which is the 20th of July, 2024. So if you are listening to this sometime in the future, that's what this podcast is recognising.
Celebrating all the ladies and all the ones we haven't spoke to. There's a lot more out there who are in the diving world, in the diving community, and there's some great ones. And we spoke to many of them. If you go back to our plethora of many episodes, which are all out there, they're all free.
183.
Yeah, they're all out there. Go back and we spoke to lots and lots and lots, and far too many to mention. And many of them doing incredible, exciting stuff in the world of science diving, photography, tech diving, training, you name it.
Yeah, and it shows diving is available to men, women, of course, and all types of ages, ability, wherever you are from in the world. Diving is something that is available out there to everybody.
Yeah, and I have a woman diver in my family. She's now coming along, and we were diving. So we'll talk about farms in a bit, but in preparation for our diving trip, this will be her very first time of diving with us. It's exciting. She's getting excited. School holidays are now upon us. Next week, when we go to the farms, it'll be her very first dive trip. Now she's done. Honey is what, 14, and she's on, I think, about 9 dives now. And so it's, big step, and we're going to be holding a hand along the way.
Yes.
And just having some fun.
Seals, marine life, colours, seaweed, kelp, all sorts of things to see underwater, and make a huge contrast to our inland dive centres like Stony Cove, where you don't see much wildlife.
We do. So you see fish and stuff.
Well,
like
the odd
that,
diver here and there.
Obviously, no seals. Though.
No
seals. But you got the what's names?
Crayfish.
Little crayfish thereabout. So mini lobsters, we could call them.
Yeah.
But, so we're looking forward to that, and it's great to see her coming on in her diving. Really, so
big adventure.
It is. So for all you ladies out there who are divers, happy Paddy's Dive Day on Saturday.
Yep, and hope you're diving or doing something to recognise the day.
I don't think it matters the training agency. If you're a lady and you're diving, enjoy it. Enjoy
exactly. Yes. Yeah.
So we talk about NART. We went up there, didn't we?
Quite a few days ago. At the beginning of the week, we went up to see the team at NART 90, who's headed up by John Routley and Brent Hudson. Yep. And we met a few new faces at NART 90. So
team's getting bigger.
It is, which was really good. And it was just good to have a catch up with John, what their plans are, and see what's coming up in the next few months, and meet one of his new chaps as well.
At the minute, they're kind of going through the website, bringing, sort of giving that a bit of a fresh look, aren't they?
A little refresh,
Some new products. They just done a recent tie up with Ratio Computers, and they're now selling those, which is really cool. There's some really whizzy. They've got some really nice watch style dive computers. Plus they got the more sort of, what do you call them, more the chunky style,
technical looking ones. Yes.
Yeah. So
and if you
lots of buttons and things.
If you are listening to this sort of like 2024 July, they've got some really good deals on at the moment as well, like trade-in deals. So you have a look at their website and their social media, and it might be the time to change your dive computer.
Could be. And also don't forget, on other products, there's also the Big Scuba code that you can use for a saving as well. Just use Big Scuba 2024.
Yes,
That.
Even if you're...
I don't think it works on the Ratio computers.
No.
But on other items, do quote it.
Yes, and NART at 90 are always there if you've got some questions about your technical setup, your rebreather setup, or you think your rebreather needs a service, or your dive computer. Just give the guys a call, and their customer service is second to none. You won't be disappointed.
John and Brent have been in the diving world for like 30 odd years. Lots of experience, and all the way from recreational to technical diving to military, commercial, you name it. They got a lot of experience, and good people to get to know and buy your stuff from. Yeah,
absolutely. So that was a good day out, wasn't it?
Yes. Some exciting stuff coming, which should be good. Look forward to that.
Yeah, absolutely. And also in the week, we've had one of our brands we really love, O3. We dive in their dry suits and their semi-dries.
Yeah.
And been big fans of them ever since, and before the podcast started. And they celebrated 35 years old.
So a little round of applause there.
That's some achievement as well. And they're going, big and strong as well, and got a huge future ahead of them. So, that's a happy anniversary.
Yeah, big congratulations to everybody at O3. They've been supporters of the podcast since we started, let's be fair. And we always have a bit of a chat to them when we see them at the show, and we catch up during the year on emails, phone calls and stuff like that as well, don't we?
Yes.
And we try and tag them in as much as we can when we're doing stuff. I've dived in an O3 suit since I very first started, in a neoprene R100. and it serves me really well. It's had to be patched up a couple of times when I've worn it through, and you know, caught it on bits and pieces as you do.
Yeah. And I've got an O3 neoprene suit that has been really, really comfy. But I think, we sing the praises of the semi-dries as well, don't we, that we use in the summer.
I love their semi-dries. Yeah,
so
I love their
definitely, look up O3 and their semi-dry. I don't, how many mils is it? Is it 5? It's lovely and cozy anyway.
It is, it is. And we wear the long john underneath, which I think is 2.
Yeah, so that gives you a bit more protection. It's not a full length, leg length. It's like a shorty, isn't it, underneath?
It's that good, right? It's that good that when, I'm pretty sure at some stage over the France weekend, I'll be in it. And I, it's more than comfortable down to about, let's say 10 degrees, I think. And I'll be in it and I'll be diving along, and all of a sudden I might move my neck or something, and I feel like a trickle go down my back, and all of a sudden I think I'm getting wet.
Then it warms up.
And I'm like, hold on, I am already wet. It's really bizarre.
Yeah. But they give you so much freedom, and it's so much easier. You can strip off easy, can't you, without any help?
So I let you into a secret.
What?
Well, the beauty of it is you can have wee.
I don't think I've ever done that in mine yet. So
You must have done.
No, I haven't needed to.
What? Never?
No.
Really?
I'm not a big fan of having a wee in a wetsuit. So
Maybe it's a man's thing.
I think it is a man's thing.
Kind of marking, us men like mark our territory.
Men of a certain age, cold and everything.
No. I'm still 26.
Less of that subject.
Us men are like basset hounds marking a territory. Just cocking a fin as we go around a certain rock. If you do the same, write in, let us know. You know the email.
Anyway, so that's O3, their birthday.
With, I cock my leg as I go past a rock too @gmail.com.
Yeah, and that's why we'll see what the seals do after that. Yeah. Anyway, so
maybe that's why they don't come anywhere near me.
Yeah. So, but we're looking forward to the Farne Islands because we've got a new camera to use, a Insta 360.
Yes. Yeah.
And there'll be a link in the show notes, but you can get.
And we've got so much gear to take.
We have. There's 3 of us this year, not 2.
All your clothes, all your makeup, hair products, and you name it. And then somehow we've got to get our 6 tanks in, and then our rest of the dive kit.
Yeah, we'll manage. It's amazing. Be a TARDIS.
The truck is going to be heavy. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
It's going to be heavy.
It'll serve a purpose and get us there and back. But we're looking forward to it. And there'll be lots on our social media to follow our journey in the Farne Islands.
Yes.
Just fingers crossed for calm seas and warm weather. And
we're looking forward to staying at our favourite B&B, the hostess of the mostest, Maura.
Yes. She'll be so pleased to see you back.
She is. She always is. And always good to have a laugh with and joke.
Yeah, what are you going to wreck this year?
Well, I did manage to spill tea all the way down the brand new curtains last year. You take it quite well, actually.
Anyway, yes, so she's a lot of fun. Yeah. So we stay in a coastal town called Sea Houses, and that's where the harbour is, where the boats leave for the Farne Islands. And it's only 30 minutes, if that.
Yeah. So Farne Islands, if you don't know where they are, if you look at the UK, they are on the northern east part of the coast, just below Scotland.
Northumberland.
Northumberland, and there's a load of rocks. Some are quite big. They used to be, up to in the 1800s, there used to be people actually lived there. Small church, there's a lighthouse.
Very famous for the RNLI. That's where that all started.
Yeah, that's where it all started. There. And
Grace Darling.
Well done. That was well remembered, or did you look it up before?
No, I went to the museum, didn't I, one year?
Very good, very good. Look up her story. Very brave lady.
Yeah. So, and even if you are a diver and you go diving, if you've got a partner, friends going with you, there's loads to do if you're a non-diver. as well. So that's
Yeah.
the beauty of that area. It's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, you can do horse riding there. You can do paddleboard in there. There's
Bird
big
watching,
campsites, bird watching,
castles,
castles. What else? Well,
National
there's
Trust. Yeah, there's some nice
so much stuff
coastals.
to do there, isn't there? And
Yeah.
it's a bit of a pilgrimage now, I think, for us
Mm.
to go up there and enjoy it at least once a year. You know, it's not just the diving. It's just a lovely place to be, isn't it? For
Yeah,
a few days,
it's got character.
you know, the diving is almost like a bonus at the end of it, really,
Yeah.
because it's just nice being up there.
And there's always a good gang on the boat. We know everybody that's going this year, and I'm sure we'll have a few giggles along the way.
Yeah, usually we do, don't we?
Yes. And it's really nice because it's generally not a full day diving. So you go out early in the morning about 8, 9 o'clock, and you're usually back by 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yeah. We usually got so we normally get, what's the name of the firm that we normally go out with? Do you remember? It's Andy who runs it.
Yeah, he's got a Instagram account called Farn Islands, and then the boats are Serenity boats. There's 2, 3, 4 in the harbour now. So they predominantly take out tourists to go around the islands looking at the birds and the sights and the seals. And then obviously there is a dive boat where we go
We
diving.
normally go out on this little yellow catamaran, don't we? Captained by Ron.
Ron.
In fact, we had a bit of a laugh last year because he was giving us the guide to one of the dives, and he said, you drop down, you got the rocks all on your right hand side, and he said, you keep going for about 5-10 minutes. He said, and you'll come along a square rock. He said, when you see it, you'll turn around and come back. And we're like, well, how are we going to know? How are we going to know when we see a rock?
And it was.
Yeah, and it was exactly as what he said. When it was so funny, it's like, oh yeah, there's the square rock.
Yeah. And just looking at Andrew's Instagram at the moment, there are plenty of seals there. So because we didn't have a lot of activity last year, did we? On both trips.
Yeah.
So, and again, if the weather we get blown out, there's always the option of going inland to Cape and Ray to do an inland dive site, or just do a bit of exploring the area.
Yeah, there's a lot to see, and we might do Edinburgh Saturday night. So
yes,
take the Honeymeister to see Edinburgh.
That's only about an hour and a half, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a good trip up there.
Yeah. So lots to look forward to.
Yeah, we'll be sharing and making bits and pieces of social media while we're up there, and talk about it when we get back.
Exactly. Yeah. And then other than that, you've been to Stony with Honey to just have a bit of a shakedown dive, haven't you?
Yeah. So just go through some skills. She's not used to wearing a computer yet, so we had some dives using the dive computer, SMB, clearing mask, that sort of stuff, basic sort of skills, really.
Yeah.
But the SMB, more of a surface marker because you need to know what to do, should she get separated. So
so that was good. And then we've been paddleboarding quite a bit, haven't we, on making the most of the weather and the site that we've got to go paddleboarding. So it's been amazing, the weather, and just nice to have that to ourselves. And and keeping our dive fitness up as well. We've been crossfitting and running and swimming and rowing. So all good things to keep the body,
and then finding time for work and everything else.
I know, and podcasting.
Talking about that, so we're going to have a little bit of a break through August. Some holidays are upon us, of course, so going to hopefully get a couple more trips in. We might do Swanage Pier. We can get down there. I know Honey enjoyed that last year, so it'd be good to get that again this year. We've
got local diving if the visibility clears in North Norfolk. We've got snorkel trail. Yeah, we've got Sheringham Chalk Reef snorkel trail to do. But again, it's just very dependent on the weather in South Coast as much as it is up here, but visibility is our issue up here.
It hasn't been particularly great, although it seems as though it's been better a few miles out around here than it has been off the shore. So hopefully we might get in soon.
I will give a shout out to James I met at where we paddleboard, and he's from the Lowestoft Bezac Club, and they go diving off the sandbanks off Norfolk coast a lot, And
Yeah.
they've had some good dives recently. And
That's good.
another diver was there called Simon. So it was a bit weird paddleboarding and three divers suddenly.
Saw one last weekend,
Hey.
Trudy.
Yeah.
All these divers, we thought, we'd have a quiet place to go paddle. The divers keep turning up.
Yeah, but shout out to them, and I'm sure we'll see some more of them when we're there paddleboarding.
Yeah.
Right, shall we have a little chat about Sally? And
Yes.
So Sally, we contacted her following the Go Diving show back in March. She was a speaker, I think, talking about the Midlands Diving Chamber and UK diving. And she recently did a post on Facebook.
She did, yeah.
Stating what did people think about the UK diving scene? And there was a fair amount of responses.
Her point is that she felt that there was a really good buzz about diving in the diving community, about UK diving particularly, at the Go Dive show, and then kind of just afterwards. And then she thought that maybe it's gone a bit flat. And I think maybe some of that's the weather. And we talk about this, don't we?
Yeah.
We talk about this, during the podcast the interview that we did with her. The reasons about her post, and a lot of the passion, which a lot of people have. And she got a lot of comments, mostly positive. I wouldn't say all, but mostly. No solutions, but a lot of positive people saying how much they enjoy UK diving, and there's a lot of benefits of the UK diving. Lots of good stuff to see, even though it's cold water generally.
Well, we've all got very good dry suits that we can jump into with good thermals. They're always a help as well. Good
thermals are definitely
essential.
Yes. Yeah. When you especially when you buy a dry suit, you kind of think also thinking about the thermals that go with that as well, aren't you? Do you know what I mean?
Just to look after you while you're
And did you know some dry suits actually are designed to go with a particular their own brand of thermals? Now you can cross reference, some people might be in a Fourth Element thermal but they're wearing an O3 suit and vice versa, because that might be what they've just got.
Yeah, but when it comes to tri-laminate compared to neoprene, it's a little bit different, isn't it?
It is, because they are usually tailored for that, and an example, just an example, Santi, when they do their dry suits, they usually, they recommend. In fact, we had them on, didn't we? And they
you get measured up for a dry suit in the thermals. Yeah.
And exactly that. So, hey, take note.
Yeah. But anyway, back to the UK diving
scene. I'm dropping a hint at all.
No, boing. No. But UK diving, cold water diving, Sally's a big fan, isn't she? That's the majority of her diving where it's been based, and she's helped raise the Bluebird Donald, the land speed record
project.
Yeah, and restored it, and they did a journey in it as well to Butte, I think 2018. So so amazing. So she's got lots of stories. She's probably a great person you'd want to sit down with, and I'm sure she knows so many people in the diving industry. Had a very social past when she used to arrange liverboards up at Scupper Flow, and there used to be so many boats.
Yeah.
But now it's a little bit different because boats have sort of disappeared. Because
can I just say as well that if you're wondering what's this Bluebird business, look up Donald Campbell Bluebird and world record speed on across water.
And there'll be a link in the show notes as well to it as well.
Look it up. So true story, fascinating story, and about British. What's the word?
Land speed. Is it land speed?
It's not. It's going across water.
Water, yeah. And it was done at Coniston Lake. That's the Lake District, I think.
Yeah. And about the plucky Brits and getting out there and striving ahead, but all kind of went horribly wrong. But there's a happy story in the end because we got the boat.
Yeah, so that's it. But yeah, Sally's a very interesting guest, and we cover a lot of subjects in the conversation.
We do. So on that note, we'll say thanks for listening, and we'll be back in a few weeks' time.
Beginning of September, I think we'll say, won't we?
Yeah. And so should we get this get Sally on?
Yep. So episode 184. This is Sally Cartwright.
Right, hello, my name's Sally Cartwright. I'm a technical diver. I've been diving 30 odd years, been on rebreather for 27 of those. And I've been head of a training agency, Aqua Association. I've been part of loads of industry background sort of activities. And then I've ended up, through COVID, I suppose, I ended up marrying up my medical work with my diving, and ended up being a manager and a hyperbaric attendant as well, managing Midlands Diving Chamber. So it's been a bit of a journey, to say the least. So, but yeah, it's been an interesting journey.
Oh, well, welcome to the Big Scuba podcast. It's
welcome
to finally catch up with you.
Yeah, definitely. It's been a while.
Yeah, so I think we made contact shortly after the Go Diving show, because you were one of the speakers. So we sent emails out to quite a few people, and then finally we've got round to sort of having you on the podcast. So it's really nice to have you here.
Great, thank you very much for inviting me.
So we'll kick off the podcast. A lot of the guests we have on, we literally start straight out and say, how did you get into your scuba journey?
Well, it's been a bit of an interesting one. Before I was diving, I was climbing and mountaineering and horse riding and swimming a lot.
Wow.
And I'd just gone to Canada on a backpacking trip. I was 23 at the time. And I'd come back from the trip, and it was back in the old days of photo albums and stuff. And all my friends wanted to meet in the pub, and I said, bring your photos down. So I did. We sat there drinking and having a beer, going through photos. And I only went to the toilet and came back. The photo album had disappeared. Little did I know, a dive club that's just recently set up in the local town, well, in the town we were in, had stolen my photos with a view that I'd get them back if I went for a try dive. So consequently, I did get them back that night, and I did agree to go for a try dive, and the rest was history. So that was back in, I think it was around about 93. So it was quite early days. It was sort of a bit of a boom in the diving industry around about that time. So there was a lot of clubs setting up. Yeah. And at the time, this club system, it was an SAA club. That's how I got into those. And SAA's like, it's an independent group of clubs, where BZAC is one club with a load of branches.
Yeah.
And with the SAA, what they did, this one guy particularly set up about 4 different clubs all around the West Midlands. So you could actually go to each of the branches whatever night of the week you wanted. And I ended up doing 3 or 4 nights a week, just getting my diving up to speed and going out and having a laugh. But we didn't have boats. Hard boats were still very expensive and elite at that point. Everybody had ribs going out shore diving. So, but it wasn't long before I ended up moving further north, and I ended up in a club in Stoke-on-Trent. And I think I just got in with the wrong crowd, and I ended up going deep within 3 years of me being qualified to first dive. And we ended up, Dorothea then was the mecca of diving to go if you were deep, wanted to go deep, and we were doing deep air. And then we ended up bumping into, I think most people know him, Richard Stevenson, from Deep Blue. He was at Congleton at the time, and he all under his wing and taught us his ways, I'm afraid.
Wow.
And then we started down the rocky road of rebreathers very early on. I think it was about 98. It might be in early 98 when I started on them. That's what I've got in my head anyway. It's about 98. And the rest is history, really. We were doing a lot of deep research stuff.
When you're saying deep, what are we talking? Are we talking sort of below 75, 100?
Oh yeah, 100-meter stuff. We were touching 100 meters regular basis from, I would say, 99 right through till, I think I quit sub 100 about 2007, 2008, purely because I just got bored staring at plankton for 4 hours. So, you can look at a bit of metal on the bottom and go, what is it? Okay, it's a bit of twisted metal. The viz wasn't great. And then I had 4 hours of plankton, and I just went, nah, I could spend 4 hours doing something else. And that's when you kind of reevaluate life a little bit. and then I was starting to have issues. I've got a knee injury that I've just had repaired, and it just all snowballed into things, and I got into a different area of diving. Then after that, I got into more research, teaching rebreathers. I did a little bit, but I just get bored of it. Sorry, but it's not for me.
Well,
I love teaching.
You run your course, don't you? And I think after a while, you kind of think, you have a change of direction. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, and I just I wanted to be the one going out there doing it again. So instead of just because I took a back seat and did teaching, I thought, right, I want to be back out there. So I started setting up other groups again, and we started doing more social scene diving, I would call it. So we're still diving technical stuff, but we'd always go somewhere where there was something to do after diving, because if you face it, you're only in the water for a couple of hours a day.
Yeah.
So we felt that we got a really good group. Let's go somewhere where there was a social event on. So you go off and do your diving, and then we go to a music festival after, or we do car rallies or all sorts of things. So we started doing a lot of sound and mull stuff, and we still do it. So in April, there's a music festival in Tobermory, and then there's a car rally in October. So we get this same group, and we're starting to encourage a few more groups to come up now. And so you can go out diving in the sound and mull, and then the evening entertainment. If you're a bit of a petrol head, you can go off and do car rally, and then they have bands, and they have other things you can go and do. And then the music festival weekend, it's just non-stop. Back in the early days, I've been doing that 27 years, that one.
Wow.
Back in the early days, there used to be about 6 liverboards that used to go out, and we'd all have to raft up against each other on the old commercial pier. And you used to have to cross every single boat, and you couldn't cross the boat without staying and having a drink with the divers. It was a massive social scene. So we're trying to sort of recreate that a little bit, try and get back to that, but there's not enough boats up there now. And you need a sort of you were using the liverboards as a floating hotel, and then just going off and doing things and go off and do your diving. But the social scene was huge, and we loved it. And you've met friends then, and you've stayed in contact with them all through. Some of them, a lot of them at the time were in the diving industry. Some of them still are. So you build up your network of things that you need, and it was just really good times. And I just think that's what we're lacking at the moment. We need to get the divers getting together, and we did shows how old we all are and getting old. The average age in the diving industry shows we're all getting old. Seems to be 1969 was a very popular year for divers to be born. So there was 8 of us that became 50 in that in 2019, and it was the year of the Scapa 100-year anniversary. And I just had a bit of a thought one day, like you do, we were out drinking. It was in Scapa the year before with a few friends, and one of ours, I'll name him quite loudly as Ronnie. His fault that we ended up doing this. He got a boat together with a few friends for his 50th. And I thought, that's actually a good idea. I'll have a few friends up, we'll book a boat and we'll go diving. Well, because I know quite a lot of people, it ended up, we booked 5 boats out of Scapa. So I picked a week in November where I could guarantee to get all the boats. And it was around about the Remembrance Day time. And we nicknamed it Scapa 100, because obviously you got the Scapa 100 with the celebrations. So we had the Scapa 100, and we had, I think it was into about 68 divers that were that turned up, and we had a games night. So you went off out diving each day, the usual thing. The boats did their own thing. So you weren't sort of 6 boats or 5 boats going around together. It was, sorry, my dog's playing with his ball. So we had a games night. So it was boat versus boat. So we had every boat had to come up with 2 challenges, and we all challenged each other on this thing. And I think it was the Isle of Man lot, because they booked their own boat. They won it. So of course it was a bit of an outsider coming in, and they won it. So it was a bit of a giggle. And some of the games, I don't know if you know Phil Short, Caver, he came up with some really interesting games. I think everybody did really. I've got some cracking footage out there somewhere on social media. I think I hid most of it just because certain people. And then that was on Sunday night, and then on Thursday night. So each night you'd meet up in the bars, and it's just socialising. Nobody got drunk or anything. It was just a real good social scene. And the Thursday night, it was brilliant. We had a theme of a fancy dress, and it was 80s superheroes and supervillains.
I like that one. Yeah, that's good.
So you can imagine 68, 50 plus ish divers walking around dressed in superhero outfits in Stromness in Scapa. It was just, you couldn't write it. You really, really couldn't. I mean, Phil Short, for example, Captain Caveman.
Really?
Yeah.
Thought he would be more of a Spider-Man, really.
We had a few Spider-Mans, to be fair. There was also somebody had made their own up. They were in purple tights and a black cape, and they were 6'2" and 6'2" across.
Was Dean Martin there? Was he a Star Wars?
No, he didn't make that one, I'm afraid. We had a few Darth Vaders, and one was only about 4'11", which was quite funny.
Yoda.
Yeah. I went as Mr. Stay Puffed from Ghostbusters, so I had a big blow-up suit. The Marshmallow Man.
Oh, yes.
So yeah, we just had quite a few. Yeah, a lot of Hulks going around, a lot of Supermans, Wonder Womans. What else? We had the IRA, typical Al Wright from Sea Leopard, because he's Irish. He came as yeah, it was a really good night, and it was a good. Everybody got together, and then a couple of years later, there's a few more of us turned 50, and we ended up doing Scapa 100 Part 2. And we had 3 boats because obviously it was post-COVID, so it was a little bit, everybody's a bit skint, or they're just getting back into it.
Yeah.
And yeah, so we had 3 boats, and we had a challenge on more boat versus boat. And some of the games, I say, were a little bit raunchy. So like squidging balloons and places where they shouldn't do, and make them go part of. Oh yeah, it was hilarious.
Well, what happens on the dive boat stays on the dive boat.
Yeah, pretty much. The one, and we can't say too much about it. Got to be there.
Yeah.
But the and then the fancy dress was it a sea theme? We had quite a few. The best one we had all night. There's a guy come over from America especially for this trip, and he's wrote quite a few books on Scapa Flow and things like that. And he's a lovely bloke, and he hadn't got a fancy dress, so he went rummaging around all the boats and stuff, and he got bits of string. We thought, what's he up to? And he'd made this complete net of rubbish, like what you'd find in the sea. And he says, I'm ghost fishing. So, you know what I mean? It's that sort of social side of it that they were trying to build back up. So, yeah, we've done the music festival this year, and we've got the car rally again. But as diving goes, I think people it's just about going. I don't know. It's hard to say, really. The average age of the divers is becoming a problem, without a doubt.
Right.
And to get the youngsters coming in, you've got to keep them interested in UK diving. There's got to be something to inspire them to go further or get interested more. I mean, I see you've got a picture of a seal up behind you. So why not?
I give a little scratch every now and then to make sure it's all right.
I've got my own plane here, just trying to annoy me because I'm not paying him any attention. But it's things like, why aren't we shouting about the Farne Islands, and why aren't we shouting about London, getting them up there?
I think we kind of are, aren't we?
No, not enough.
Go dive, and they have a UK diving section. We often talk about the Farnes and Lundy. And I know those guys are always on social media as well. I know Andy and Ben, they're all over social media, covering their dive boats. But unfortunately, with Farnes particularly, in my short period of time of diving up there, the number of boats have reduced. There's only Andy's boats now going out, where when I first started, I think there was 3 different companies.
There was, yeah, you're right. But that's happening all over, though. When you look at what the boats are, when you look at what was going out of Weymouth, and what there is now, they're all out of Portland, but there's only 3, I think, maybe 4.
In fact, the guy who, when we went to St. Abbs dived, which was
COVID times, wasn't it? 2020.
Yeah, 21 maybe. That's when I did my hair, wasn't it? Yeah. And the guy who took us out on the boat sold up after we'd been diving. Yeah. And he's now down south now. Matthew.
Oh, Barry.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was the one who's Captain Chaos.
Was he?
Yeah. He made his own
You'd make a
superhero.
good Captain Chaos, actually.
Oh
Yeah,
God,
because
yeah.
he appeared on Ross Kemp's
Yes.
program, didn't he? He suddenly popped up, and we thought, oh, we recognise. Yeah,
Yeah, Bristol.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. Yeah, Barry was he's been around a while up there and stuff. And I just think, like, it's not okay, we all talk about it and we see it at the dive shows, everybody promotes it, but I've never known a diving festival at sea houses. Go and see this. Go and see the seals. It's October, November time. That's the best time to go and do it. And it should be coming from club level, really,
Yeah.
and agency level to drive a festival. Say, come and experience really good British diving.
And that's we say, all these youngsters come into diving, and like Ian's daughter, qualified, done her open water, but it needs the clubs to keep them entertained and interested. It's not just about money and spend this and get this equipment, go on this holiday. You have to get them, you have to inspire them to think, I want to stay and I want to dive and I want to.
But that should be easier today, because you've only got to go on Instagram particularly and look at all the diving pictures and people doing great stuff, but usually most of it is all broad, if you look,
That's
because
right. Blue
the
water.
clear waters and that. Yeah.
Pictures look pretty with blue water.
Yeah.
But I just think we just need to promote it a bit more, find a bit more of a social scene with the diving, because that keeps everybody together and keeps them interested in sharing stories and
So what finished it for you?
Stories. What finished it? And it's not really finished. I've just moved in a different direction. Although I'm coming back into tech again now. Now I've had me basically I injured my knee many years ago climbing and diving and working with horses like you do. And
I didn't mean diving so much, but I meant like with the social side, with if when you're organising the parties and and you got your half century parties up there, went from 5 to 3. What and have you why would it have gone down?
I think a lot of it was because it was post-COVID and lack of interest, and I would probably say a little bit of planning from my behalf as well, because when I started the Scapa 100, that was 2 years planning.
Yeah.
To book, and 32 grand of liability on me.
Yeah.
So when you looked at it for the second time, it was only like a year's notice, and then I've got to get the boats all together, and everybody got pre-commitment. So what you find with these serious sort of divers, they tend to plan next summer halfway through the summer before. They've already got next year's diving plan now. So if you're looking at planning trips, you're looking 2 years down the line to get full commitment. And then you've got to secure prices from the boats. They don't know what they're going to be charging. I'm off to Norway in a few weeks, and that's been nearly 2 years of planning. And the skipper just kept saying, well, I'm aiming at this price, and it could still be that price. I can't promise. But what we didn't want to know was that it could jump up 500 quid, especially with the way gas prices are and transport costs even to get to Norway. Norway's expensive, but to get to Norway is quite cheap in comparison to other places.
Right.
So I think a lot of this is 2 years of planning and making sure you've got your divers lined up to do it, and it's something exciting that they want to do that they wouldn't normally do.
Yeah, but even in the UK, it's we've got everything on our doorstep, haven't we? It's just trying to entice people to try diving in the UK.
Well, there's a lot of people won't dive because they perceive it as just being cold. They don't realise that you can actually dive quite comfortably in a dry suit, and actually most of our summers water temperature's warm enough to do a nice dive in a wetsuit.
Here's me going to be a bit of a devil's advocate now. Why don't the British diver training agencies just teach cold water diving? Don't even mention warm water diving, and then do warm water diving as a bolt-on course, like speciality of warm water diving. So you're training them to be in the UK and encourage them to experience the UK, and then they could go off and do that as an extra. Do you know what I mean? It's that's
quite interesting. So what you could do, so instead of doing, say, let's use PADI as an example,
Mhm.
where you do your PADI open water, and then you'll bolt on maybe a dry suit speciality, so you can hire a dry suit, do a combined, call it one unit.
Yeah,
And
so you don't ever mention warm water diving throughout your training. So
yeah,
it's not like you're tempting them abroad. That's
but
just me being
then
a bit of a stir it up a bit. But I don't ever remember through my training back in 1993 that we were taught all about Red Sea diving when we're actually learning to dive in the UK.
but what difference would you need to then? So say you did that, and let's say PADI, be it using them as the example, went down that road, and then you say, right, okay, you've now qualified as an cold open water diver. What would you then have to do to then say, well, I'm going to go to Egypt in 2 weeks' time after qualified? What would you then, one, you've got to charge something, and then two, what skills would you then teach them to?
Well, it's difficult to say because I think in the club system it would just be a module that you cover.
Mm,
Maybe it's part of the course that you've already paid for. It's just a module that's separate. So you're training them to dive in UK, but then, by the way, at the end of your training, here's the module about diving abroad, and you'll need to know this to dive abroad.
Yeah.
But all the way through, you've trained them to dive in our waters and be excited and go and learn about what we've got in our waters. And I mean, that's just something I was just chewing the fat with the
yeah.
other day when I put that post out on Facebook about I've taken 8 months out of the scene while I had a knee replacement, and I've come back and it feels a really different place. I know the dive show gave a lot of inspiration and stuff, but to be honest, I was too busy hobbling around on crutches to absorb it all and sit around but chatting to people that came on the stand, they were very enthusiastic about the summer to come, but they've already booked those trips, if you know what I mean. They kind of planned those trips
Yeah.
6 months before last year. So what's going to happen the following year? What's going to inspire them to go the next year? And it just seems to fall very flat. Once the dive show's open, everybody's on a lift for about a few weeks, and then it just sort of melts into nothing because they've already got that year's planned.
Here's
So,
another. What about if you got the councils involved? So instead of just being about diving, you actually said to the councils to encourage more tourism in certain areas of the country on a
yeah,
diving kind of, so people go there to dive, but then also we get, in the spare time and partners, they're also doing other touristy things.
It's like Northumberland, isn't it? The Farne Islands. You think, you're a diver, and yeah, diving's fantastic there, but also the amazing beauty of the area is just incredible. And you've got that kind of two sides of the environment that you can explore.
They could even just put a notice board up on the harbour side and just go, look at these amazing pictures of what's under the water on those islands 4 miles across. I mean, it's something I could probably tackle. I've just bought a house in Northumberland, actually. I'm only about 20 minutes from sea houses now.
Nice.
So I can, or Eyemouth, I'm sort of in the middle between the two, and St. Abbs. So maybe it's something I could take to them when I'm next up and just say, how about promoting this? It's one of your biggest industries on that stretch of coastline.
Yeah.
And you should be harnessing it a bit more.
Yeah.
I mean, when I look back how I started, when you look at how people started training, you have to look at how they've got introduced to it. So myself, obviously, that was via a pub. But when you look at how other people in that club got to it, it's because they went to that leisure centre. They saw a notice board. They saw a note on there about diving. Oh, I'm interested. And there's a big note saying, come for a try dive. And that's how it used to be. It was never advertised out. You never bought a magazine unless you were a diver. So there was no advertising in other extreme sports magazines or the newspapers. There was just nothing. I think some of the local clubs used to advertise in the local newspaper, but that was about it, really. And now it's all social media now and websites and stuff like that. The websites just were probably coming in around about then. It was all very basic. But it's if you went to that leisure centre, you saw people diving or you saw a notice board, that's how you got in.
Yeah.
And I know clubs are trying, they still got that system in place. But unless you go to the leisure centres, you don't see it.
You don't know. No.
No,
No.
exactly. So
Yeah.
it's just an interesting how we can drive British diving. So
Yeah. And everything is so accessible in the UK. You know, I know the UK is big, but you know, if we're in the south, we've got the south coast, we've got even things like Swanage. Even if you don't want to dive, you can snorkel. And you know, we're a bit restricted on the Norfolk coast because of visibility, but equally, you know, 3-4 hour drive and we can be on the south coast. So
yeah, I think people forget we live on an island. I certainly do some days. I used to say to my mum, I want to live on an island, and she'll go, you do. I go, oh, yeah. So,
yeah,
yeah.
we've
And
spoken to previous guests, like Ethan in Ireland, and just the amazing, you know, scenery, and it's all very shallow. It's you know, accessible to every level of diver as long as they've got their open water, or they just want to snorkel. And yeah, we are on an island, and it's crazy.
yeah, and I think the lack of so technical diving's still pretty strong. It's still going out there doing things, but it's the group levels down. They don't have the instructor base as what we used to have. They it's like I was writing up the other night that the instructor base that we either have is those retired from diving, so they're in that age bracket where they don't want to dive anymore, or they're medically unfit to do it, but they want to do a little bit for the club, so they're helping out with teaching. And then you get the young, hard, fast, freshly qualified. They go in, burn out, fade away. You know, they've thrown themselves so much into it that they've burnt themselves out mentally and physically with it, and financially in some cases.
Yeah.
In the early days, we used to see a 2-year turnaround on these hotshot technical divers. They come in, buy all the gear. They'd do 2 years of diving. They'd either get divorced or they'd run out of money. So,
Or both.
or both, yeah.
One comes before the other.
Yeah.
It's quite interesting, really, because like I was looking at your Facebook post that you put up about it a few days ago, and the passion is out there because you know you've got 54 comments and quite a few of the names I recognise, and there's a few things that stand out and is repeated if you look through the comments. Is one, quite a few people are inspired by Jack Cousteau, and that's often a thing that you know our guests are often mentioning as what one thing that got them started. Ross Kemp gets a mention. Now, Ross Kemp, you know, I personally really liked his diving programs that he did, his shipwreck programs, and we had him on, and he was a really good guest. And I think if for the main, his diving wreck diving program was really good because for you know, I know a lot of some of the dive. I heard some of the comments and read some of the stuff online by some of the salty sea dogs out there who kind of knocked him a bit. But his TV program wasn't really aimed at just divers. It couldn't be because if it was, it would have never made it through and got the back. He had to appeal to the non-divers and the people who sit in flats in central London, never see the sea, and get people to look at it and go, wow, that's a wreck. And otherwise they'd never see it. And he had to put drama into it. You know, unfortunately, with today's broadcasting and stuff, if there ain't some drama and people don't go, well, you know, he nearly got stuck in that wreck and what have you. And, you know, people probably wouldn't have watched it. So he has to, I'm not saying he did, but there was drama and people like drama, and that's the fact of it. And I think programs like his have got to help. And, you know, nearly all that program, apart from when he did like, when he some of the Red Sea dives, most of it was all UK diving.
I never actually watched it, to be fair. I think I must have missed the slots.
It's
but
worth
I think,
watch.
yeah, I could try and get hold of it. The key thing that came from me was it was his journey as well. It's not how he learned to dive, how he went through, and a few of my friends actually taught him. So it was about his journey. Pitching it at the lower level, totally agree with that. But we need something to inspire existing divers. Now we used to have wreck detectives, and then what they call it, Drain the Oceans, was kind of that's kind of okay. I quite enjoy that, but it's more of the story of the wreck, not about diving the wreck. There's, I think the wreck detectives was probably one of the best eras for modern day diving. The Jacques Cousteau thing, I never watched the Jacques Cousteau program. I probably was. I was more interested in climbing Mount Everest at the time, but it just shows the generation that you're working with when you say, "Oh, Jacques Cousteau inspired me." Well, you've got to be 50 plus then.
Yeah.
You know. So we've got nothing now to inspire the new generation of divers.
Well, we kind of have, but that's unfortunate. It's not in this country.
Mm.
And he doesn't really dive, unfortunately. But on YouTube, one of the biggest people would follow him. That's Jake, D or my D. And
who's he?
well, he does this. He used to be a BMX guy and a gamer, and he built up a big following. And if you go on YouTube and look up D or my D, and his mates now nearly as big as what he is, he's got one of the biggest followings out there on YouTube. And he's got, like, last time I looked, he was up to about 14 million followers. And he goes into the rivers and find trash and rubbish and stuff like that. And his videos are very good. You have to, you know, he used to do them himself, and he don't know, he's got a team of people and YouTube behind him. And, you know, he is an American, and people do try and do it in this country, but you know, when you try and show videos of, you claim, you know, we've tried it, of us finding stuff like in the river in Norwich, and we've found all sorts. The videos are just not that great because it's murky and dark and stuff like that. And you when you look at his videos, they're crystal clear. You can see what he's doing, and you know, you can't. It's very hard to get that and then replicate that in the UK with our conditions.
But then we have good conditions, like it, you know, good conditions, you know,
it's not impossible, but it's just
it's not impossible.
Just got to wait the time out and the weather, haven't you, to go and get them. I mean, I guess there's always a bit of poetic license with some of it, because I worked on I still work on the project, Bluebird project, Donald Campbell's boat.
Nice.
Sank in Coniston. So back in 2000 we found her again, and 2001 we raised her out of Coniston, and then the team worked on it to restore her. The rest is a little bit of history. It's been all in the press lately a lot, but back in the day when we got her out, the BBC followed us. And again, the drama thing, because we had a commercial team, but every time the BBC were on site, we had to have a commercial dive team to look after them in case the cameraman fell off the boat. The dive team would have to go and get it. We just sat and laughed, you know, when they got wet. They were just not divers. They were not boat people. And when we actually raised Bluebird, and there's a film about it, BBC, what's called Search for Bluebird, came out when the elections were on. Anyway, the BBC complained because the commercial dive team and the techie team, as in us lot, we got on too well, and we got the job done too quick, too slick, and there was not enough drama. So we had to create an argument between the two leaders of the two groups just to make it to watch telly. It was unbelievable. And because the visibility at the bottom of the lake when we were working on Coniston was so bad, that what they did, they put the ROV off into the shallow water off the pier where it was clear, and said, "Oh, this is the bottom of Coniston." It's like loads of leaves and the sun's beaming through, and you're like, no.
That reminds me of Ross talking underwater, so when you could hear him occasionally.
Yeah, but it was just just unreal. So the poetic license of it all, just to get viewers.
Today's episode is sponsored by Narked at 90, so let's find out a bit more about them. Narked at 90, their tagline has been beyond technical, which describes them pretty well. John Routley and Brent Hudson launched the company over 20 years ago. They are both technical divers who have logged thousands of mixed gas dives between them over a 30-year period. Using their engineering know-how and diving expertise, have developed bespoke, personal, commercial and military diving equipment and products of a universally recognised, unparalleled calibre.
Their ability to be adaptive and versatile with their developments led them to support the NHS during COVID. Using their superior knowledge of breathing and oxygen monitoring systems to help develop emergency ventilators. They also design and supply the sneaky stuff used by defence-based development groups throughout the Western world, although they can't tell us much about that. If you're thinking of moving across to tech diving or completely new to diving, Narked at 90 can advise and guide on the best equipment and setup for your personal or commercial requirements. Narked at 90 have unparalleled experience of shearwater dive computers and are the longest serving and sole and UK European service centre for those. They are happy to offer technical support, servicing, repairs and upgrades to all shearwater computers, past and present. Narked at 90 stock shearwater computers, but are also stockers and technical support centre for many other manufacturers, including Divesoft, JJCCR, Hollis, Revo and Kiss rebreathers.
Based centrally in the UK, Narked at 90 also offer full rebreather head servicing for selected manufacturers.
Bespoke cable assemblies.
Advice on specific fitting requirements.
Suggestions and guidance for home builds.
Computer laser cutting and engraving.
Pressure testing to simulate 400-metre dives.
So, Narked at 90, a reputation built on supporting both manufacturers and divers worldwide.
Go to narkedat90.com and make sure you are following their social media to keep up to date with their latest news and offers. I have had another idea, and something which I think will inspire young people if they start following, and that's deep. You know, Phil Shaw, there's Kirk, there's Dawn, there's so many
Dawn Kniegas,
exciting people like Dawn and Kirk and Phil and all these others who are slowly moving their way in over that way. And we had the Mary Rose, didn't we? That was lifted. And I personally think, with what I've seen and what we hear and following deep, potentially deep, that could be the next big thing.
I think so, yeah. 'Cause,
it's exploration and adventure as well, isn't it?
And they're bringing it to the forefront for us all to understand as well. So it's not, they're doing a lot of social media stuff. I mean, it was all a bit cloak and dagger to start with, and now it's all starting to come out. But I think until they've got something they can physically show and put in the water, they're building up to the big event, but we don't know when the big event's going to be. But I think once that's in and they start showing what they're going to actually be doing, and they could probably come out with a TV program based on that to get the inspiration back for diving. Whether it'll, don't know, whether it'll probably inspire those that are more scientific brain, more, what's the word, they're interested in the more science side of diving than they are actually going diving. I don't know, we'll just have to wait and see with that one.
Also, it's a journey, isn't it? Because diving can lead so many places. And we've always said this on the podcast. You can just dive, but also you can make it your career or your hobby, or, it can take you completely down another path, like photography, videography.
Yeah, very much so.
And we have to say, it's thank goodness Deep is in the UK, because potentially that could have been in America or somewhere else, but it's not. We had, luckily, the investment is in the UK, and it's good. We've seen Blue Abyss, we had those guys on a couple of years ago and couldn't get the backing in the UK, so they've gone to America, who, the American government has got billions of dollars to spend on research and things, and that's now going ahead in America. And it's good to see it. That's great, but we kind of lost that. But it's good that Deep. So we, I think there is some exciting stuff in the UK.
I think so, yeah. And I don't think the oil and gas industry actually shout about what they do either. Because if you go a sort of more Aberdeen way, you get a lot of the ROVs, the divers that are working off there. They could do a program about life on a diving ship and doing oil, research stuff, anything like that. There's not enough. Nobody knows that Aberdeen is the mecca for commercial divers. And there's loads of opportunities to take your work there. You don't have to be a commercial diver. You can go off and be a geologist that understands diving. There's well, you can just go in a swimming pool and do helicopter egress and be the person dragging the oil rig worker out of a tiny hole in a helicopter window type thing. I've done that. That's good fun. But there's
we're an
loads of
island,
stuff.
aren't we? And you know, where we live on the East Coast, and it's huge wind farm business, huge. And you know, this is all for the future of the country, and the energy, and everybody involved in it is on the water.
Very much so. And it's like we've just started doing a lot of scanning again. So we're going to do a lot of side scan off Newcastle upon Tyne.
Okay.
That's the plan. We got a boat to fix. It's our old boat that we found Bluebird with. So now Bluebird's gone back to the museum. We're thinking, well, we've got a couple of projects lined up ready to go. I think it's in the autumn they kick off. But we decided we'd get the old boat back up and running and go and scan the coast off there. There's a lot of areas, and even shallow 20 meters, that have not been really delved into much, because I know it's a very short season off there. But if we could go and get scans and get loads of data. But being a diver, to understand scanning, it's a different field and it's an interest, and it's another area where divers could go and look at and learn about how a shipwreck lays out, the history of it, what happens when it's blown up in this particular way, where that torpedo hit it, how would it look on the seabed, and how would 80 years of being exposed to the elements of being underwater and the wave action and the tides, how a wreck would end up looking. Everybody thinks shipwreck, they'll think of Pirates of the Caribbean lying on the intact on the seabed. It's not quite like that.
No.
So from a research perspective, I think that's another field that the training agencies could take the divers to in I don't know, say Paddy speciality in wreck research. There isn't one.
Yeah.
And you could set them up with these centres throughout the UK that could teach and train them how to use a side scan. Even the electronics now on a boat, the Garmin stuff, is so sensitive. You can map out a shipwreck and you can virtually see a nut and bolt on it. It's that sensitive now. So, and that's a club rib can buy that sort of equipment. But it's all right looking at it and go, yeah, that looks like a ship. But to understand it is a different world. So we're looking at perhaps going down that route and maybe sort of teaching it a little bit. We make our own towfish, and we've got a couple of mags that we used. They were no good on Bluebird because she was aluminium, but and she didn't really return much back off that. So I think Bill Smith, who's part of that, he's looking at inspiring that again. Now he's retired from diving, but he's looking to keep back in diving and go back out scanning. So it'll be something to watch out for, because we're going to aim it at the shallow, so the sport divers, not go off and for a deep one. So
if somebody done that, is that something that somebody could do as a career or earn money?
Yeah, very much so. Yeah, there's a lot of people scanning out for careers. I think a lot of the companies are sort of, again, based in Scotland, because they have to go out scanning. So if you're going to go and put a wind farm in, you've got to go and scan the seabed.
Yeah.
So again, that's a career in its own right. We're going out doing multi-beams off the boats to scan. Oh, we had it recently where a guy called Rob McDonald, he was trying to organise a trip off Bacamay Island to do the K boats, which is our British submarines that sunk in the war. And we were all lined up to go and do it and research them, document them, scan them, and we weren't allowed because they were scanning the seabed at the first time we went for the wind farm.
Oh.
And then we went to go back again end of what was it, August, I think. Yeah, it was about August time. They went to go back. I couldn't make it because I'd retired slightly off with this knee injury. They wouldn't allow them anywhere near the wrecks, even though they'd finished scanning, because they'd now started work in the area.
Oh.
So they've taken out a massive chunk of Scottish water that people couldn't dive because they're now setting up a wind farm. But we found out, I'm not quite sure the crux of it, but there was something they did became illegal and they had to backtrack. And they said they actually could allow us to dive, but we've got to book it about 4 months in advance. Well, you can't do that, and
No.
you can't do that with the weather. So I think it's all been pushed back until the wind farms are built, and then we'll just go in and dive them. So yeah, so it's been a bit interesting trying to get permission on site. So apologies. Sorry, somebody work phone.
Sorry.
Um,
Do you find it hard to recruit for the chamber? New people?
yes and no. We either get a massive influx of people or we'll get hardly anybody. So what you have a couple of full-time employees, and then you'll have bank staff, because you want everybody on rotation, so everybody
Yeah.
gets a rest, because you're on 24/7.
Mm.
Sorry, 24 hours on call, and then you just book the days you want to be on call. We ideally want divers because they understand. We're not just treating divers, we're treating medical patients as well.
Yeah.
So they need to have some empathy towards a human being. And they've got to have some medical background, i.e. even first aid ticket is probably the base route, and then we'll train them according. So we in-house train, and there's not many qualifications out there you can do, so we tend to, and every chamber is individual how they're set up, so we prefer to train in-house, and then we can always send them off and do the course if they really wanted to do the course. Doctors are hard to get hold of that are interested in hyperbarics. There's not many. To be a hyperbaric doctor, you need to be ideally a diver. There are not many doctors in emergency medicine that are divers. There's very few, far between throughout the UK, so they're all spread very thin. You can look at, I mean, that was another thing that came up because we're part of the British Diving Safety Group meeting. So we go down and meet up with them, and it was brought up that the UK DMC, which is the medical referees for the country that do all your medicals for diving, they're getting less. So if you look on the map for where all these medical referees are located in the UK, they're getting very few and far between. And I think they're looking at ways of trying to recruit. So it's basically, we're running 6 to 8 weeks in advance for a medical, as a lot of them are. And we keep getting phone calls from people saying, "Oh, I booked a Red Sea trip next week, but I need a medical." And you're like, bad planning. We can't help because we're fully booked. We can't possibly fit you in when we're already full to the brim.
This is back to diving medical, or are we talking professional diving medicals?
All of them. So
okay.
I think the education needs to be brought out a little bit more about diving medicals, and I think the clubs. So basically, you go into a club or a PADI course, you sign a self-certification form.
Yeah.
And if you tick yes on any of those, no matter what age you are, you've triggered a fit to dive medical. It has to be done by a medical referee. Now, PADI medicals can be done by a normal doctor. I say PADI medicals, it's or I think they're RST, I think they're called, Dan and all that group. European medicals can be done by a doctor, but what's happening in the UK, doctors don't want to do them or write their name and be responsible for a sport they don't understand. So this is where the UK DMC win, because they're all divers as well as doctors. So BZAC, SAA, I think there was one other, I can't remember, they insist on a UK DMC medical referee. Now, if you've triggered a fit to dive medical, you need to go and see a medical referee, and that's where we're short of in the UK. Now, a HSE one, again, they have to be a HSE AMED qualified doctor, which is they have to have an occupational medicine degree, as well as being a hyperbaric doctor, and a registered doctor in their own right. Let alone they've got to be a registered doctor before they can be a hyperbaric doctor.
Wow!
So it's a lot, and then they've got to do occupational medicine on top just to do a diving medical. So HSE, they have to do a preliminary medical exam for the first year. So this is for anybody that earns while they teach, or commercial divers, all that sort of thing. So if you're earning money, you need a HSE medical. So the biggest problem then again is getting enough HSE AMED qualified doctors in the UK to cope with the demand. So what we always get is people running out the medical date. So if it only lasts for 12 months, and then you get the phone call a week before, I've just realised it's run out, or it's running out. When did it run out? 4 months ago. Well, we've got to start the whole process up again. So to get your preliminary, you have to have a medical form signed off by your own GP. So you can tick all your medical conditions if you've got any, or no medical conditions, but your own doctor has to sign off to say, yeah, he agrees. and you're not telling lies, basically.
Yeah.
And it's a HSC requirement. It's not something we've stipulated. And again, we're stumbling with doctors who don't want to sign it off because they think they're doing a medical. And then they charge you 50, 60 quid to do it.
Yeah.
And again, this is going to expenses for divers who cost cutting or worried about money, and they've still got to have a medical to dive. It was brought up with people, anybody over 70 has to have a medical, a bit like driving.
Yeah.
Got to have an annual medical without fail. If you've got a cardiac issue that doesn't actually stop you diving, but every year you've got to have this medical, you might have to go and see your cardiac consultant for reports to take to the diving doctor. It's just costly time and a lot of effort for these people who just want to go on holiday once a year.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it puts them off probably, doesn't it?
Yeah, I get quite a lot of it. And do you know, the biggest problem we have is like your sea life tanks that take divers in, and Bear Grylls is one.
Oh, yeah.
Loads of conversations with them. Is these people, I feel for them, because these guests have been bought a free ticket to go and dive with, been bought a ticket to go and dive with sharks. They're not really diving, they're walking around on the bottom, but they're on scuba gear.
Yeah.
They've ticked yes on the paddy form, and it's just triggered a fit to dive medical around £100 for something they've been given for free. It's just like, you feel for them because you're like, you can't help them, but that's the legality of it all. And it's just costs, and you know, £100 a year for some people, it's a lot of money, but we can't do it any cheaper.
Well, you can't ignore them risks, even when it's just a quick dip in a tank for a couple, for an hour.
But the amount of people that are coming to us with so many conditions like asthma and again cardiac and there's all sorts of weird and wonderfuls out there, and and prescription medication, classic. And probably everybody's heard me moan about it. I must be stuck record on it. When you do the sort of screening on the phone, and you go, have you got any medical conditions? No. Okay, so there you go. Is your blood pressure normal? Yes, it's normal. Okay. Asthma? No. So you just have a few little quiz, and you go to them, you got any prescription meds? Oh yeah, I'm on Ramipril. Well, that's a blood pressure medication, which means you've got high blood pressure that's controlled by the drug.
Yes.
Yeah, but it's normal range. And I'm like, nope. If you took that drug away, you have a blood pressure problem.
Yeah.
And they just, they just don't get it. But they're so interested, they're so determined to go diving. They don't look after themselves. This is what I get frustrated about.
What, divers abusing their bodies?
Yeah.
No, surely not.
We're all guilty of it. As we talk about taking people on a social weekend and going diving, we're guilty of it. We all have a little drink. Okay, we're all pretty careful with it, but we have a drink.
Well, you only need to go to a dive site to see all the shapes and sizes and specimens to know that they're not really.
Well, not all.
No,
I'm not saying all, but I'm just saying.
You see him come waddling back from the hatch at Stony Cove with a 12-inch great big bat full of stuff, And I think,
it does make you laugh. Oh, I know, and diabetes is on the climb, so that seriously affects divers, and the paperwork they have to do for a medical for that, it puts people off.
But if you see more conditions, surely that means more people are in the water. They're coming in. Yeah,
and I think a lot of it as well, it's an aging population of divers. We're all getting old, and we're all getting these conditions, whether we like it or not. So
we need to get some new divers, some young divers, and keep them in the industry.
That's what I was battering on about on Facebook tonight. We need to harness that enthusiasm, show them what's out there, and get them interested in an event that's involving diving.
Yeah, and not make it because sometimes it seems like, oh, you start diving, then you've got to go deep, and that makes it quite restrictive and almost defensive. Like, I don't want to go deep. I like shallow. I like light water, and you just need those kind of avenues where you can go and have an experience that you want, not that you don't want.
In all them comments that you've got on Facebook,
Yeah.
I haven't read every single one of them, but just flicking through most of them, there's no solutions.
No, there isn't yet.
Opinions, and
Everyone's
that's it.
saying what's happening and what their experiences are, but there's no solutions to it. And
Sorry.
I do think one of the solutions is, well, one of them was we already said is attracting young people. Two, keeping them. Three, I think it's definitely stuff like the shows. I think the shows are really important, and doing more of it, because I think it's a good time to get people together, and hopefully attract, especially when you've got young divers doing exciting stuff. We often talk about Scuba Grace, who's often doing stuff, and she was talking this year as well.
Sorry, my dog's just.
You've been attacked. What's his name?
Tyke. He's well known in the industry, trust me. He was bred by Jason Brown and Georgina Brown, who
Nice
help
one.
out with the dive shows and stuff.
Ah.
But I've been talking too long, apparently.
So yeah, I think we need more dive shows basically as well.
I think we need smaller events. I mean, in the earlier days, we had a technical show. I mean, we lost Eurotech. I mean, that was brilliant. That was really good. It was inspiring divers to go in and explore their own waters wherever they were from.
Yeah, it was good.
We need another something like that, because it was a social scene as well. You were networking, you were building your contacts for your next project.
You need to have a word with your friend Ros Lunn and tell her we need another Eurotech. There we go.
We've had many a discussion about that.
Lee Bishop, he'll be one for Eurotech as well.
Yes, I'm sure he will be. I think there was talk of trying to do one at some point, but I think it's fell on deaf ears.
Oh.
But we'll see. There's something. It's got to be something similar nature for the sport diver, I think.
Yes.
Let's inspire them that
Gets
way.
more numbers.
Yeah, make it less technical, more sport.
Yeah, accessible. That's the main thing, I think, and not expensive. Yeah, I know we all have to buy our equipment, but if you don't have
snorkeling show.
Well, yeah, exactly. Snorkeling, open water swimming. Look how that's evolved since COVID, because it was accessible, and that's all we could do. And look at it now; it's a whole different scene. How it was pre-COVID.
Yeah, you can't get into Stony Cove without a sea of swimmers over your head now. We just blow bubbles at them from the bottom.
Yeah, they just need to ban speedos, though.
There is
elderly men in speedos. In fact, just people in speedos.
Yeah. But there's a reason why that has evolved, and even on the coast here, there are people in the water every day.
It's nuts, isn't it? Now you can't go anywhere in open water without seeing somebody stripping off. No, you just can't. It's just how it is. But do you know what? The quarries, and talking to the people at Stony, it's their biggest turnover now.
Yeah,
they're regular. They're in every day. The divers just turn up at weekends, cause chaos, and that they're more of a risk of something going wrong. Yeah, and they love the swimmers going in, and it's a good community. But I think I'll challenge Ros on a sport diving show.
Yeah.
That would be really good. I'll have a word with her later. I'm sure she'll appreciate my phone call.
So we've found a solution, basically.
Yeah, let's drive it.
Yeah,
let's make a start.
The Scuba show in March, that's obviously getting bigger and bigger. They're more worldwide now. They're going to Australia. So, that's positive in seeing something like that happen.
Yeah, we can perhaps do something in the autumn, just as everybody's winding down for the colder weather. And I think Ros originally wanted to make it a Christmas party for the industry, and it was always about the end of November, beginning of December. So, because everybody has their own works dues, don't they? At some point, I think she was hoping to get a diving industry get together, have a party, and then COVID hit, so we never really did it again. So. Maybe it's something we can do from a sports angle. I'll have a chat with her and see what we can come up with.
Okay.
But I think that'll be a good start. And it's going to end up. I mean, BSAC conferences have started again. That's 19th of October. So maybe that should start helping boosting it. when you talk to the clubs, I mean, on those comments, that the common thing that's coming back was that are the new divers coming through. It's just, I think it's a delayed reaction post-COVID, in my opinion. It's
That's
like,
got to be a two-part question.
yeah,
It's not just about if they're coming through, are they then staying?
yeah, exactly.
And
Keeping
are
existing.
people chasing them up and saying, hey, we're not seeing you at the dive site, we're not seeing you at the club for the last few weeks, you know, what you doing? Have you dived? Come back, come join the club.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a lot of pressure on the committee. They need to, they do enough for the club, and the last thing they want to do is start chasing people. We had it with our own club years ago that nobody would follow it up. Yeah, we lost them. We haven't seen them for a few, so we'll just leave them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
They'll
but
come
that's
back
what
when they
needs to
want
be.
to. What's the word? Apathy.
Yeah.
Mm.
I think
Layer
that's
of
what needs
apathy.
to happen.
Yeah. If
Yeah.
you look at a business with customer facing, you know, you want to keep your customers. So you have to treat them well, keep in contact, you know, give them a reason and that connection to stay. Whereas I think a lot of dive centres, they're so busy bringing people through, qualifying, that element is missing.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And I think with GDPR and everything now, gathering data from your divers is really hard to store, keep, use. And I think it just puts a lot of people off even doing it.
Yeah, it's almost, you've got to find another way. It's not email, you know, maybe it's social media. That is what all the youngsters are on, TikTok. So, you know, Facebook, Instagram, that's the medium that you can communicate with them rather than email or a phone call.
What do they call them? Influencers.
Yeah.
We need a TikTok diving influencer.
But there are influencers out there. I mean, we spoke to one of the Apex ambassadors, Kaylee.
Yeah.
You know, and they're really young, really enthusiastic about UK diving, but you know, it's just getting that connection and building that bridge, and then people, hopefully, these youngsters can think, "Wow, look at that! Look at what they're doing." But I think there's social media side of things is maybe lacking in club scene.
Yeah, we'll just have to. I think a good starting point would be, let's get a big event that it's more workshops, more education than it is a dive show, like Eurotech. Look at something getting like that, get all the clubs, local clubs and the training agencies involved, and get Ros on the case. She's going to, like I say, she's going to love me for this. And again, you've got a social scene, networking scene to take your diving forward. You know, you're not just going to, it's the end of the year, you can start planning for the next year. If you haven't got that done already, you can start, or you can plan for the following year, the year after.
But it's breaking it into chunks. You know, there are lots of us qualified divers, even if we're just open water, not even advanced. So that's your captive market straight away. They know what it's about. You know, inspire them, move them on, you know, or just stay an open water diver. But, you know, that's your market that you've got.
Yeah, I mean, when I look at some of the medical cases we've had at work as well, the open water divers are the more susceptible because they're inexperienced. Something's gone wrong on the training. And you think, when you look at the statistics, which is a lecture for another day, I'd say we never see a technical diver because they plan every last breath out of their tanks.
Yeah.
They know exactly where they are, at what breath, at what time, on their computer and on backup plans, everything. Whereas an open water diver goes in, follows Joe Blogs, follows a computer. Where's the planning? And when I learned this, a lesson, I went through a bit of a sticky phase. I put it down to hormones and age, where diving was not going the route I wanted it to go. I was having weird experiences underwater, and I just couldn't seem to get my head and put my finger on it. And again, this is a talk for another day about women of a certain age that going diving, losing confidence, and having panic attacks over the stupidest things that they wouldn't normally have getting in the water. I used to stare. I've been on 120-meter dives, no problem. I go and look at 20-meter dive and look at it and go, why do I want to get in that? You know, and I'm thinking, hang on a minute. A year ago, I was doing bottom of the English Channel every weekend. So I went through this weird phase, and I had a long chat. Rick Stanton's a really good friend of mine, a cave diver, and he lives half an hour away, and we often meet up for a curry and a beer. And it was going back about 10 years ago. And he just said, stop planning for what ifs, plan for it to go right. And that, I think, is missed in the industry a little bit as well. Plan for things to go right. Yes, do your what ifs, but don't home in on them too much. Practice them, rehearse them, but you're planning for things to go right to enjoy it.
To enjoy it, that's the main thing.
Yeah, and you know what? I turned a corner after that.
Yeah.
So I'll always thank him for that, because it saved my diving career. I don't think he really knows.
I'm trying to understand that though, because so you have panic attacks underwater.
Little mini ones for no
And-
apparent reason.
And then, but then after his chat, you then started enjoying the dive.
Because
so that then ruled out the attacks.
Yeah, it was a mindset thing. So you would look at it as a confidence issue. So if you look at, let's use menopause as an example. So you'd look at the menopausal symptoms: lack of confidence, anxiety, depression. I'm not a depressed person from it, but I've started getting anxious now. Why? I don't know, because I'm normally quite confident, bold, strong character. And I was getting this weird confidence attacks underwater, like, what's around that corner? I don't want to go and look at it.
And was it only underwater? So you weren't having
underwater.
anything like that about anything above the water?
Exactly. So I couldn't put my finger on what was going on. I thought there was something wrong with the unit. I was getting hot flushes, didn't understand why. Thinking, oh God, I'm having a CO attack, a CO2 attack. There was all sorts of things that were going on, and your brain runs 100 miles an hour when you're on a rebreather, because you're thinking, isn't it? Is it? You do a flush, I feel fine. You go back, oh, it's coming on again. So you just get these little anxiety things building up, and then they just disappear because something will get your attention. Oh, that's interesting. I'll go and look at that. And then you've forgotten everything that's just happened, and then something else would happen. Then you'd start building this wee anxiety up, and then you get in thinking something's going to go wrong, when you know you've done your planning. There should be no reason. Your unit's working. Everything is absolutely bob on. You couldn't wish for better conditions, but you would find something to lose your confidence over. And it wasn't until I had this chat with Rick. We were out for curry one night. We might have been off. We did a bit of off-roading back in the days, and we still do on occasion. And we just had these chats. He came up with that. And do you know what? It's the mindset. It was just literally somebody going, stop thinking like that. Why are you thinking like that? Think like this. And it absolutely turned a corner. Yes, I still had the odd little wee ones, but you just give yourself a bit of a clip round the ear roll and say, get on with it.
I think you can have lots of things happen. Personally, I speak from experience, that knock your confidence, and that just sends you into, I've had some real not very nice experiences recently, and I think that's just because things have knocked confidence. And
also it's probably not been your day for it, and then what happens is things go wrong, the incident pit starts appearing, and unless you can get yourself out of it sharp, it ends up into a mess underwater. It doesn't always mean incident pit means death. Incident pit means you've had an incident. It doesn't matter what level of incident it is, and that's what frustrates me a wee bit. Everybody has this idea, if you're falling in the incident pit, well, the end result is you're not going to make it back out. It's not always the case.
Or you're not going to get back in and dive again. And you know,
simple things like SMB's not going off correctly. I've seen so many people get into such a mess over it, and they get themselves so worked up and overthink it when they get back on the boat. And you're like, well, yes, you fell in the incident pit with your reel. That was it. You fixed it. You got yourself out. You're on the boat. You're drinking tea. Yeah, you're drinking tea.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's a very hidden subject with menopause and diving, because I think it's affected a lot of female divers over the years. And the ones I've spoken to, they've lost the confidence through something they've not been able to do. They felt they couldn't continue it because something's changed. There's been no rhyme or reason. And then they've gone through menopause, they've got themselves back on their feet, they've gone on HRT, suddenly they've got the confidence, they've gone back diving. So they've lost 10 years of a diving career because hormones have played a silly game. And it's not talked about, and it should be talked about, because there should be help out there, more help because we're in a sport that we love and we want to continue, and it's a lifestyle choice, and it's good for mental health, all that sort of thing. So I think we need maybe we need some diving specific help for menopause. It's just not talked about.
Yeah.
Not in the diving world, no, but it's probably more out there now with all the celebrities, you know, Davina McCall and everything. They're all advocates for it, aren't they? But not diving.
Not specific to the sport. I know DDRC. Sorry.
I don't think that's just women though. I think men, the difference is with the men, we might not be menopausal, but men, especially that if a man suffers it, who's experienced, you know, maybe a tech diver or maybe just an experienced diver, if they do suffer it, they might not tell anyone, and they might just keep it to themselves because they think they can't tell anyone, because to have a panic underwater or they kind of, you know, don't show it but feel it, well, to then tell people, it might weaken their, you know, how they're viewed in the diving world. I'm not saying, I'm just thinking that it probably isn't just for women, you know, that women go through. I think men do as well, probably.
It's probably quite a bravo kind of sport where you don't show your feelings as such. Especially, you know, on a dive site, you can't suddenly crumble, or everybody's putting pressure, you know, everybody's got expectations. So that's probably for men and women.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, when you look at the new generation of youngsters generally that come in, and not just into diving, but just in life in general, you see a lot more depression, anxiety. It's being talked about. But when you put these sort of people into a sport like diving, have we got trained people to deal with any incidences that may occur because of their, I don't know, say for instance, someone has a panic attack from an anxiety attack underwater, and they have them on land as well. How do we know that instructor is qualified to deal with that person underwater? You know, you have mental health first aiders. I don't see a mental health first aider in diver training, because we're going to need them with this generation that are coming through, because it's more openly talked about. They're having medication for it. I've never seen so many people on medication for it when you look at what we deal with at work. And we never had that in our day. You just got on with it, or you didn't get on with it. But maybe that's something the agencies need to look at as a mental health first aider, to have them trained with people that are at risk but should be encouraged to take the sport up.
Because it has benefits to those, you know, you see, you know, people, they've got mental issues, you know, sometimes sport, not just diving, but any sport can give them, you know, a new avenue, you know, new view on things.
We've had a few people come in who for, I'd say, a treatment. They've got themselves in a bit of bother. They've got a history of PTSD, and the thought of giving up diving was more of a problem to them than the PTSD, because the diving helped with their
definitely. We've had the guys from
therapy.
Very much so. And I think if you took diving away from them, and some may have to because of a medical health condition, or that the DCI has found a PFO or anything like that, you've got their diving is their life. And you know, we need to be able to put more things in place to deal with that and to encourage them. Obviously there's the risks of the ones that are not suitable for it, but they're soon found out and they give it a go, and they find out themselves it's not for them.
But it should, you know, all that aside, it shouldn't be a barrier to anybody to try diving. You know, you've got to give it a go and get out there. So, you know, whatever ability, you know, medical issues you've got, it's worth exploring, just to even, because there's always other options. So diving, maybe that's a no, but there's snorkeling, there's open water swimming, there's paddle boarding, anything to get involved on the water is going to be, you know,
just things like boat handling, because you get people retiring from diving and go, what can I do? Oh no, I'll boat handle for the club. Just things like that, and then learn to go scanning and go wreck hunting and stuff like that. There's loads of opportunities, and I think that just needs advertising a bit more and getting out there. So
we're on an island, we're surrounded by water.
Water, perfect, perfect excuse.
Outdoors.
Off the computers.
Well, I think we'll have to get you back on at another time. Maybe once you spoke to
Mm.
Roz, and we'll start planning this
Oh, she's gonna
this
love
next
me.
show. She'll be fine. Tell her I said hello. She'll be absolutely fine. She'll
I'll
love
get
the
her to come on and
challenge.
talk to you.
Yeah, we'll get her on. We'll have a chat with her. So we've got some questions. You know, we always ask our guests some set questions, and
Right, okay.
there'll be no escape for you either. So let's start things off. So we're going to ask you 3 people from either history or today. They can be divers, don't have to be divers, but you can take them underwater and show them the joys of diving. Who are you going to take?
Daniel Craig.
Really?
Put it on my post, yeah. Because he's already a diver and I want to show him the real UK diving. Not fall asleep in the bottom of a blinking tank at Pinewood Studios.
I don't think we've had Daniel Craig mentioned before, have we?
No, we haven't. No.
No, but he is a diver, and he claimed in that news piece, you've only got to Google it, Daniel Craig and scuba diving, that he loved it so much and he felt so relaxed that he used to go into the bottom of the pool and have a snooze when nobody was looking
Really?
and catch up on his sleep. So maybe we should get him out. James Bond, what more could you want?
He's not the first though, because Sean Connery was a
That's right.
as well. Yeah.
Yeah. So and they're both famous, and I'll happily take him diving.
He's your number 1. Who's your number 2?
Thor. Can you imagine how quick you could get to a dive site with Chris Hemsworth under your arm?
I can see there's a theme here.
Yes.
That's really good. Yeah, another new one. Yeah.
Yeah, because I just think, well, just go and God, and you're off. You're gone. Where do you want to go?
Or Roadhouse.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Cool. That'd be really good.
That's what it's called in what's the name? It's Avengers, isn't it? It's Roadhouse by
yeah, something like that. Yeah, but and yeah, any blonde hunk, I don't mind.
Moving on, number 3.
My mother.
Is she a blonde hunk?
No, she's a redhead Geordie. That's the worst, I think. She's a feisty redhead Geordie who moans at me for going diving, doesn't like it. She's claustrophobic and she doesn't understand why, because nobody in her family ever did it, apart from my Uncle Joe, who used to swim to Coquet Island, which is off northeast coast. He used to swim and back with his dog every day. She says, I don't understand why you dive. And I went, I don't know, I can't explain it. So I'd love for her to not be claustrophobic and to experience what I've experienced, because she just doesn't get it.
Awesome.
So I'm sure there's loads of parents out there like that with their children who dive.
Yes. Yeah.
So I'd love to take her.
Great
She might shut up then. She might leave me alone.
Very good answers. So is there anything that gets you out of your comfort zone?
Sharks. Absolutely sharks. I am not, because I'm a UK diver, I've never experienced sharks until Dean Martin, I'll blame for this one.
If in doubt, just blame Dean. Yeah,
it's easy to blame Dean. He won't mind me saying that, bless him. So I've done Red Sea before, but we took a blind guy to break a world record for depth on the rebreather. Mark Threadgold, his name was. So it was 2006 or 7. Anyway, we never saw sharks. It was fine. I was dealing with a blind guy in the blue hole, so you don't get them in there. So then Dean decides to have this mad idea with Mark Evans as well, and Penny Evans from Scuba Mag. We all went away, and what I didn't realise was that they booked this week on this liveaboard. Great. It was to go find sharks. I'm like, what? You tell me this after I've paid me money? No, what am I going to do? Dean says, oh, it's like this. You do this, you do that. They leave you alone if you leave them alone. And he gave me all this stuff, and I panicked on every dive. I was going to bump into a blinking shark, and I saw one. And it was just on my first dive. I was going out one. An oceanic came up under the boat. It was only a youngster. Wow. And I never actually saw it. I'd literally got out the water onto the back of the boat, and my buddy was in the water, and the guides were all coming down and says, shark, shark, shark. I went, no, it's Jason, it's fine, it's only Jason getting out of the water. I'm like, no, shark. He said, do you want to go in? I went, nope, I'll stay here and watch from. So they've got some cracking pictures of it, but we never saw another shark all week apart from a few hammerheads. I don't mind those because they're in the deep and they're just doing their thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, sharks. I'm a little bit. I need to learn about them more.
You
Yeah.
need to go and see Christina as an Arto. And
Yes, that's right. Yeah, I met Christina at Eurotech a few years back, well, pre-COVID, and we got talking about it. We're friends on Facebook. I don't have a lot of interaction with her because she's too busy, lots going on, and she probably forgot who I am anyway from Eurotech. So, but yeah, I should really go and see her and get my phobia out. That would be a reality TV moment, wouldn't it?
That would.
Yeah. See if she can break my fear of them. So,
yeah, I'm sure she would.
yes.
Excellent. And our final question. Okay, so we're going to give you a billboard, and on this billboard, you can put anything you like. It can be a video, it can be a picture, it can be an image, it can be a statement. But it's your billboard, and it's going to be a message to the world. What are you going to put on it?
I'll probably just put some word in it and just keep it short and simple. And I often use this: be inspired, go exploring. Short, sweet, to the point. It could be anything. It doesn't mean to say go diving. It could mean go for a walk down the road and go and explore your local area. Just go and do it. I don't see why people don't want to do things like this. You know, we've got a big wide world out there. Life's too short. That gets proven every day. You know, we all hear about things that make you think about your own life. And I think just get some inspiration, go and explore what comes to you. So at the minute, I'm looking at going back mountaineering now. I fixed my knee.
Yeah.
And I'm just thinking, where do I want to go?
It's exciting, isn't it?
I know. And I've just come back from, well, an attempt to get to St Kilda. And it failed. And we're driving through all the Scottish mountains. And I was just driving back. I was looking, I want to climb that one. 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 It could take me 20 years to do it. And I just thought, I've got to start somewhere. So I'm already making plans to get my walking boots back out and get back on the hills.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just need someone to kick you to do it, give you a bit of push, or get someone to go with you to hold your hand, not hold your hand, but get you out there for that first time. And once you're out, that's it. You get the bug, you're away again, aren't you?
Get off the routine train.
Yeah,
Don't do
exactly.
the same thing every day, every weekend. Got to do different things. Yeah.
I did find that when I went to work at the chamber, because it was more of a 9 to 5 office space role. And I'm used to being out on farms, up in the Peak District, working up in the hills and out into sort of Yorkshire and stuff. And I'm thinking, I'm stuck in 4 walls now. I really need to make most of my spare time and get out and get back to it. So, and these people who sit in offices all day, I'm sure they get twitchy and want to go and do stuff. I'm sure. It's just getting that who can show me how to do these things. Sometimes you need to hold somebody's hand to do it.
Yeah, but once you've done it, then you're your own, you know, you've got your own destiny ahead.
Yeah, it's just like going to the gym for that first time. Once you've been and you've met a few people, then you're away, aren't you?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, no, I'm all about getting out and exploring, and I'll take Daniel Craig with me. I'll probably take my dog as well, because I think he'd be a bit jealous. My mother will want photographs and videos of when I get back.
Well, Daniel.
I'm sure he'll throw on his walking boots. He'll be fine.
Yeah. So, great stuff.
Yeah, no, great answers, and it's been really good having you on the podcast. If people want to know a bit more or learn a bit more about you or the Midlands Diving Chamber, where is the best place for them to make contact, or have you got a website?
Yeah, I think we've got a website, just midlandsdivingchamber.co.uk. We took all our social media down because we hadn't got anybody to manage it, you know, because it was just getting a little bit too much for us. So we just took it back for now. We're probably looking at building it back up. But yeah, the website's got all information about DCI, how to contact us. People can get hold of me through that if they want to. They can nag me on Facebook if they want to, or even through Bluebird Project as well. We don't have a Facebook, we've got a website, bluebirdproject.com, which they can get all information on the diving side and research side, and how we rebuilt Bluebird and how we run it again. So there's loads of information on there. I think Yeah, I think that's it. I haven't really, I'm not really big on the social media. I'm too busy getting out there doing it.
Yeah, well,
So
that's the thing.
yeah, coming back writing about it, it's like,
Yeah.
no, I'm already on to my next project, so I lose momentum.
Yeah, well, that's good. Well, if people can, drop you an email or have a look at the website, that's great. And we'll
Yeah.
put the links in the show notes so that
Yeah,
people can find you.
I'll send you everything I've got, what you need and stuff. So,
Great. Yeah.
but great stuff. Well, thank you very much. It's been entertaining.
No, thank
Yes,
you.
yeah, no, it's been
Thank you
great.
very much.
Yeah.
So, and I'll let you know the results with Ros.
Yes.
So she's, like I say, she's going to love me for this one.
Fine.
Well,
Right.
I've got to keep her on her toes.
Yes, definitely. Thank you very much.
Great.
That was really good. You know, that's the obvious
Lots of
thing.
areas
Really enjoyed
covered.
that.
Yeah, lots
Yeah.
of subjects. Yeah. So, and lots of mileage, probably more to talk to Sally in the future about other things as well. So,
Yeah, I think so. You know, I think there's some. The trouble is with podcasts, I suppose you don't want to go too deep too early because, you know, the subject can be quite deep, especially when you talk about mental issues, PTSD, and things like
yeah.
that. You know, and we predominantly got Sally on to chat about UK diving, and yeah, we kind of moved on a little bit, I suppose, through the conversation. You know, so I'm hoping, you know, when we come to share it, all these people who have commented on her post that she did a few days ago,
I'll
and
have to tag them in. Yeah.
if you're listening to this, go to Sally Cartwright's Facebook, and she makes a statement, and she asks, "What's wrong with UK diving today?" And there's a lot of passionate people out there who, you know, answer her question. You know, but there's no solutions given.
No, and I don't think there's an
Nothing's-
obvious solution to the
Correct.
question, but it's a combination of effort to make
And
it
I
happen.
don't think there is one. I don't think there's one thing that there is, you know, you can just say, right, well, if you do this, it'll cure everything.
No,
Because
that's
I don't think
exactly what
that's
I've.
not the case.
No. Yeah, no, it's got to be a combination and the enthusiasm and talent, and it's just got to
Yeah.
be there. So,
But it's certainly fascinating to talk to Sally, and done a lot of diving, done a lot of experience, you know, and knows lots of people that we've kind of got to know over the last few years. And, you know, obviously well experienced from her time at working at Midlands Diving Chamber.
Yeah, no, an interesting guest, and yeah, we've got people to contact as well that she's mentioned going forward as well.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and if you've got any questions for Sally, I'm sure you can drop her an email at the Midlands Diving Chamber website, and she'll get straight back to you.
Yeah. But for now, I think we'll say thank you very much for coming on.
Yes, yeah, that was great. So, and again, there are plenty of other podcast episodes behind this one, over 180. So do go back.
Over 4 years worth of podcast. 4 years.
Keep you busy. So, yeah, so you can go to our website, thebigscuba.com, and you can do a search if you're looking for anybody in particular, or you can just start at the beginning. And
At the beginning, where it all began, at the genesis. And hey, didn't we speak to Mr. Talbot first?
yes, yeah,
Wasn't he our first guest?
Yeah, and the three girls, Inca, Grace, and
May.
Yes, yeah. So they were, one of the first episodes. Yeah, and
But there is something out there for everybody. It's cave divers, shark people,
astronauts, artists,
just
clearance divers,
photographers,
poets.
Yeah. And I think really, you know, as when you listen back to some of our old stuff, some of that was COVID times and things like that. But there's some greats, you know. Tech Clark, he was one of the memorable ones. Christina, Phil Short told us. To find the magic. Tech Clark told us to transform.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Remember?
And then we've had, lots of different divers that are not like in the public eye, but just passionate about diving. So it's been really an interesting journey, and there's, more to come still.
And then sometimes we just rabbit on about what we've been up to as well. So.
Yes. Well, there we go. So generally the podcasts come out every 2 weeks on a Monday about 1 p.m. UK time, but we'll be taking a little break over the summer while we're busy out on the water and under the water. So they might not be so strictly routine, but
and we should also probably say as well, now is a good time to say thank you to our lovely sponsors of narked90.com, and they are beyond technical.
They are. So, yeah. And if you want to look them up, just go to narked90.com and see all the products and services they can provide to you.
They have a code.
And they do have a code. It's Big Scuba 2024. Gives you a little bit of a discount on anything you purchase, and you can use it on up to 2 purchases.
That's pretty good, isn't it?
It is, especially, you know, if you're looking at a dive computer or something, you know, a piece of equipment that's a little bit pricey, then that's there to help you out.
And their service is second to none, you know, in the diving world, and they're very well known for their customer service. So.
Yeah, they're UK based, but obviously a worldwide service. So if you've got any questions or looking for any advice, drop them a message and they will get back to you very promptly.
narked90.com.
Right. So I think that's about everything we have.
I think it's time to get a cup of tea, and then I hope you enjoyed this episode.
Yeah, and if you've got any questions for us or any comments, drop us a DM, drop us an email, and don't forget to give us a review and follow us on your podcast platform.
Yeah, and if you listen to us on iTunes, leave us a 5-star review, because that helps us get found. It helps your dive buddy find us.
Exactly. So we look forward to hearing from you. But I think
so. That was
the Big Scuba podcast.
Now that does wrap up today's episode of the Big Scuba podcast. But if you want to hear more from the podcast, make sure you hit that subscribe or follow button depending on what platform you are listening on. That way you will never miss an episode from us. But if you are listening on Apple Podcasts and did enjoy what you heard today, we would really appreciate it if you head to the show page to leave a 5-star rating and review. It really does help us. If you do, please take a screenshot of that review and send it to us on Instagram, and we'll give you a shout out to say a big thank you. If you have any questions for us or anything that has been mentioned in today's episode, be sure to reach out to us on any of our social media platforms or send us an email. The links are in the show notes. We will get back to you no matter what. If you have made it to this point in the episode, we both want to say a big thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you on the next episode.